Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And today's show brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business. Maybe they save you money with bundles because they want to save you money as well. They want to make sure you're insured, save you money. So they're the insurance professionals. They are the pros. They know exactly what they're doing, how to make sure that you're covered, and they want to save you money whenever they can. It's all at Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. And we're in the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Before we get started here, Catrillo puts out this, was it a tweet? What did you put out? Yeah, it was Twitter. Loaded Monday on the Steve Jones Show.
Well, that's right.
3:35, Frank Bodani, York Daily Record. Alex Kozora, Steelers 2-0 start. Kim Jones, NFL Network. It's today's show. I get a text. Wow, I never get invited in this show. LOL. Hope you and your family are safe and sound, Steve. Tom Bradley. Because I never see the tweets, so he included the tweet in his text to me. Oh.
I'll keep that in mind.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, he's Scrap's one of the greatest of all time. One of the greatest. All right, so the schedule's out. And I know people are like, oh, what do you think of the schedule? You know, to be honest with you, it didn't really matter to me about the order, with one exception. I did not want to see, because basically we knew what the teams were going to be. And so it wasn't going to be like, all of a sudden Wisconsin shows up. That's not what was going to happen. So we knew that. We knew that it was between Northwestern and Iowa as to which one of the home games was out, and then everything else was going to stay the same. And pretty much everybody knew it was going to be Northwestern that was out because Iowa's been pretty much this designated game the last few years. All right, that's fine. That works. I just didn't want to see, for example, especially 8 games in 8 weeks, I did not want to see Michigan, Ohio State back-to-back. After that, I didn't care. Didn't matter to me. They have a tough opener at Indiana. Now, they have Michigan State at the end. But as of this hour, I can tell you, Indiana's a better team than Michigan State. Who's better? In fact, we've had Phil Steele on the show. Maybe we got to get Phil back on. You know what? I'll get Phil back on the show. Phil talked about coming on maybe the second week. Maybe we'll get Phil on in early October. How about that? Once we get a little time to breathe on the SEC and we can start looking at what the Big Ten has schedule-wise. So Ohio State's the second game. That's fine. I don't care. That's fine. The only thing that mattered, I didn't want to have 2 games back-to-back. You're like, oh, man, alive. Really physical games. Really physical games. Like that back-to-back. Other than that, I think it's fine. It's the only thing I didn't want to see. They've only got 1 home game in December. That's at the end with Michigan State. They go to, I'm trying to think. They play at Michigan on the 28th, so Thanksgiving weekend. Then they're at Rutgers on the 5th, and they get the Michigan State game here on the 12th. I don't know what nobody said. Now, there's let me tell you now what wasn't said. Let's discuss what was not said. Okay. There are three things that were not said. Number one, what wasn't said is where you're playing on the 19th outside of the championship game at Lucas Oil Stadium. That's one. They didn't say whether that extra weekend would be home games for teams or would be neutral site dome games. That wasn't said. Number two, what wasn't said. Each weekend was put out there. Boom. Here's week, okay? Everyone's assuming that every game's a Saturday game. I wouldn't assume that just yet because guess what? They didn't tell you who was carrying what game. That will be the next part of the release. The next part of the release is who's going to be picking up what games when. Which games will be on ABC, which games will be on ESPN, which games will be on ESPN2, which games will be on Fox. Now, two of them were designated on Fox already, with obviously one being Michigan and Ohio State. But the other Fox games were not revealed. And what about FS1? Which brings with it, a Friday night opponent. Now, you'd only be put on Friday night once. It's always been the deal is that if you're going to play Friday night, it only happens one time. Well, could there be a Friday night game here? For example, could the opener at Indiana be Friday night? Could be. On the 23rd. So the TV part of it was not discussed because the TV part of it, now that could be, if you're going to play on a Friday night, okay, let's start with this. If you're going to be designated to play on a Friday night, that's one that you do need to know before the season starts. They can't do this 12-day thing for a Friday night game and say, hey, oh, by the way, you got this game on Saturday, but you're going to be playing Friday in 2 weeks. The Friday night thing has to be designated ahead of time. So that will be the next element that comes up. So the TV element and what days, we were all essentially given weekends, and they used the Saturdays as the gauge of a week-by-week schedule. The third thing that was not mentioned at all is the suits' participation in this.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, that one I can answer. It'll be none. All right, so... oh, you people are awful. Worst ever. Yeah. So I texted Doug the other day, what he missed, and he mentioned the games and the fans. But that's all he mentioned. I said, is there anything else or anybody else you miss? And Doug wouldn't answer it. I don't know what that means. I was a little confused by it. So again, you have the order with which you're playing teams. What you don't have are the start times, maybe even a different date, and you don't know what network. Because the network, now all the games obviously will be on the radio. We all know that, right? So, but when it comes to actually watching the game, Jack and I, we get it. We've done this a long time. You want to watch the game. Some of you are kind enough to say that you turn the sound down and listen to us. It's very kind of you. But we know you want to watch, so you don't know yet what network these games are on. That hasn't been designated yet. I'm sure that's deep, that the discussions on that are in depth at the moment. But they also have several weeks to null it out. I mean, the season begins 4 weeks from Friday. So you got 4.5 weeks. So you would think that some of the TV, especially the early season stuff, the TV stuff comes into play. Also, is there a cutoff point for the Big Ten on a night game? In other words, will the December games no night? Will there be something about December games and no night games? I mean, what is the cutoff point on playing at night? And I don't mean Friday night. I'm not talking about Friday night. I think there'll be only X amount of Friday games in this. But I'm talking about primetime Saturday night game. Now, we all know Michigan and Michigan State's a noon game on December 12th. I wouldn't doubt that Penn State, Michigan State's like a 3:30 game or something like that. They're going to put it opposite. But how do you want to do this? And is there a cutoff date for the Big Ten of playing a Saturday night primetime game? And again, that hasn't been spelled out. Because for when it comes to ESPN, ESPN, everybody's playing at that time. The SEC schedule is going to be 10 games, but there are a couple of bye weeks built in. The ACC is going to spill over into December. For example, Virginia and Virginia Tech was rescheduled for December 12th. So you have some room in here where there are going to be other games in December, but does a Big Ten game become an option where ESPN requests it be a primetime game? We don't know. And will you still have to abide by the 6-day, 12-day rule? How many of these games can you ahead of time, and how many of them are you going to have to wait to see if there's a 12-day deal? Normally, when there's a 6-day deal, you're allowed to do it, I think 3 times a year. Now, they only did it twice last year. I think they only did it twice the year before. But I think you're allowed to do it 3 times. But that is in a 12-week season. You can do 3 of those. When you're looking at the Big Ten, you got 8 possibly, 8 and then the 9th. SEC, you got 10 of them. And obviously CBS certainly gets its choice. But that is, there's still a lot of questions about the schedule. Which ones go to Friday? There have been rumors about Mondays and Thursdays, and so I can't, no offense, I can't picture that. It's already going to be tough enough to play 9 games in 9 weeks. Now you're going to ask somebody to play on a Thursday night? Now you're going to ask somebody to play on a Monday night? Which now shortens the next one up. I remember Penn State playing on a Sunday in the kickoff classic and having to come back and play Saturday, and the short week played havoc. And I know playing on a Friday creates havoc for Penn State. They really have to push their schedule around a lot to do it. They've had to do it twice. So playing on a Friday, unless it's the opening game. If it's the opening game, who cares if you're playing Friday? It's the opening game, who cares if you play on Thursday? That doesn't matter. Illinois was supposed to play Ohio State in the opening game of the year on a Thursday. Who cares? Just means you've got 9 days until the next game, because you're not going from a game to a game, you're going from practice to a game. So the opener, who cares about playing on a Friday night? That's fine. Going forward from there, yeah, you do care because it does shorten the week up. And you can't really do other days of the week. You just can't do it. At least I don't think you can. Maybe we'll find out they can, but I don't think you can. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with more in a moment. Great to have you with us today. Brought to you by Purdy Insurance on News Radio 1070 WKOK. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years. Great to have you with us on the show today. Brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. And we're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Frank Bodani, 335. We'll talk about Penn State. Depot, 406. Kim Jones, NFL Network, 435. Mike Gross from Lancaster joins us tomorrow at 3:35. Along with Neil Coulong on the show tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Great to have you with us. The NFL, it seems on the surface that there is just a rash and a ton of injuries. Actually, when you go to the injury report and compare it to previous years, it's about the same, but it's the names on the injury report. Saquon Barkley, Nick Bosa, Jimmy Garoppolo, Christian McCaffrey. The names jump out at you. Solomon. I mean, the names just jump out at you. In terms of the numbers are pretty close to the same as you would see from week 2 to week 3, but it's who it is. And when I was watching Saquon's injury live, I thought, ooh, boy, that's tough. But I didn't think too much of it. And all of a sudden, then he rolled over and he took his helmet off. I went, uh-oh. Then he grabbed his knee right away. You're like, uh-oh, this is bad. And you could just, all of us here that know him love him. He's a special guy, special talent, but a special guy. He'll bounce through pure work ethic. He'll bounce back from this quicker than anybody realizes. It won't be this season, but I think you'll look at him and, man, does he need an offensive line? Hey, by the way, your team's not very good.
Yeah, no, I have given more effort to this show for this entire week than the Eagles did to that debacle yesterday. Actually, not even that, to that embarrassment of a game yesterday.
Ooh, you're awfully bitter.
I'm angry. I'm angry about the Eagles.
This is where, for example, I gave up on my bitterness.
Well, to be honest, your Giants have stunk for a couple of years now. I can understand that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. They've got 4 Super Bowls. You got 1, but that's okay.
In terms of the last 3 years or so.
But I'm just saying, though, you know what the funny thing is? I've enjoyed sports a lot, but in terms of really being, passionate about it like this, to be honest with you, the last time I was like that, really, was the 2004 World Series. The other ones are like, hey, great. I've enjoyed it, but not. I think part of it is that when you're announcing for a team, Penn State football, Penn State basketball, now, I channel all my sports passion in that direction. Even with the spikes for baseball in the summer, I know it's minor league baseball, but that's what I love doing. That's where my passion is, and it doesn't translate so much to watching other games on TV anymore. Doesn't mean I don't want them to win. Yeah, sure, I want them to win. I want them to do well. But I don't sit there and oh, my goodness, take me to the canyon. I want to jump. They lost. Which it sounds like now I've got to talk you off the canyon ledge.
Yeah, I'm getting there. That was just...
You got a
that
great
was worse
child.
Than last week.
Great child, wonderful wife. There's a lot to live for.
From Purdy Insurance. As we continue in the green phase per the governor's order, most of our staff continues to work from home to practice social distancing for the safety of our staff and clients. During this time, we are operating under the guidance of the insurance department. Our office remains available to service our current and new clients by phone by calling 570-286-5855, email, and by appointment. Our after-hours emergency service is also ready to assist our clients with their needs. From the team at Purdy Insurance, stay safe, be well, be kind, and know that we remain dedicated to the highest levels of service to protect what matters most.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, just a quick helpful hint for those who are involved in management. When there's a 1-hour meeting and one person talks for 45 minutes, very ineffective. All right. What, something wrong, Matt?
Nope, not at all.
So I make sure I slip that in there. You people are the worst.
You are accurate.
Today's show brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, bundles. They'll save you money. They'll get you the right insurance. They are the pros, and they're even better people. That's Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. We're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Remember what I said about Purdy Insurance? Great professionals who are even better people. I just described Frank Bodani, York Daily Record. Frank, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
God, you got to love your introduction, Steve. Thank you.
Hey, it's true. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't say it.
Okay. Well, I hope you're doing well on this glorious day. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful out. Frank, when you saw the schedule, any quick thoughts on the schedule?
Crazy to think we have another month to go to wait, but and then you start to get excited about some return to normalcy with road games and home games, and you go back and think, well, I don't know if there'll be any fans in the games, especially for week 2 with Ohio State. Halloween, Ohio State, you know, that's a game typically, the whiteout. So how that's going to I mean, what's Penn State or any of these teams going to look like in week 1 or 2 when they haven't played for so many months? And then 2, you get the 2 probably best teams in the Big Ten going at it on week 2 in an empty stadium. And, you know, kind of you have to wrap your mind around it a little bit at a time. But I think Penn
exactly.
middle of the road, you know, middle of the road compared to the rest of the teams.
Yeah. I mean, somebody asked me about it, and I said the only thing I looked at right away was would Ohio State and Michigan be back-to-back, which is not – it's not like it hasn't happened before. It has. And the fact that they're spread out by a month, that's fine. And I think after that, I didn't really care what order it was in.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know. The Wisconsin, a very good team. You know, who's the third best team in the Big Ten? Probably, you know, it's number 2 and 3 is up for Wisconsin and Penn State. Beyond that, I mean, I don't know. I think Indiana is a really intriguing opener because of how much trouble they've caused Penn State in recent years.
And they're very good. Indiana's very good this year. I mean, I would think I rank them higher than Michigan State.
Oh, I think Michigan State could be I mean, who knows exactly, but they could be in a world of hurt, I think, this year. I think they're going to be, you know, teams are worrying about playing them, and that could be true, but with a new coach and their situation, I think they could really struggle. I think Indiana's going to be a tough matchup. I think the one thing Penn State has, you would think to their advantage, that they have not in recent years, is leaning on an experienced and also talented and potentially deep offensive line and running game, which could alleviate a lot of maybe previous concerns in ways you haven't seen in a while, including week 1.
All right.
Where teams down.
Yeah, including week 1. No question about that. When you look at the Penn State team now, let's take Micah Parsons and put him to the side here, as much as people are hoping he's not here right now. When you look at Penn State and the fact that the other players have all committed that they want to be there, what does it tell you, especially considering some of the opt-ins that did happen at Ohio State?
Well, I think it seems to me that Penn State has the the discipline, the drive to do well, despite all the craziness that's been going on and uncertainty the last how many months, is that I think they are still well suited for recovering and playing a very productive season. It seems like they're together. I think from the outside, it at least seems like their locker room is still there. And I think in the like we use that word uncertain a lot, kind of world coming up with college football. I think that means a lot. It could mean everything. And it seems like the players are there. I mean, they haven't had shutdowns. You know, you haven't heard about other, like you mentioned, other players decommitting, opting out. It just seems like there maybe is as good a place mentally, emotionally as you can be. You know?
Exactly. I thought Kirk Shiraka made a great point on the coaches show Friday night that he has been so impressed that even when nobody knew what could happen, in other words, you're going out there with the assumption nothing's happening until maybe the spring, that his guys were still locked in, and he was impressed. And I think that's interesting coming from somebody who is new to the program.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State really revamped their offensive side of the ball, coaching staff, and that was the big thing that hurt them, you know, because spring was supposed to be a chance for those guys to really kind of make inroads and entrenching themselves. But yet, even despite that, you know, I think they have the leadership there to really turn things around despite the struggles, the late start, and it is a really good sign. I mean, guys on the other side of the ball too, you know, there's guys that could have left, there are guys that could have gave up, and people couldn't blame them. People like Shaka Toney and others that have apparently, you know, stayed true. And I think you're really excited to see some of those guys like Jason Owe and some of the linebackers, whether Micah comes back or not. Hey, you're looking forward to seeing these guys that are tremendous athletes finally getting their chance to start and shine, and a lot to look forward to.
Certainly a lot to look forward to. A week ago, it was on this particular day, there was some hope, and 2 weeks ago, it didn't look all that promising. So, in the end, how do you think this all came together, Frank? And you know, and it's amazing what a difference 2 weeks makes.
Yeah, you know what? I think it was probably building. I mean, my guess is what happened last Wednesday was building for a while, behind the scenes at least. And I think it's, you know, I mean, a combination of things. Most public is the advances medically and the testing. I don't think you could even consider it if you didn't have the rapid turnaround in the testing that's cheap and expensive and can keep the field clean. You know, it's always going to be about how the players and the staff handle themselves after hours. That's always going to be the question. But can you play without keeping the field clean? You couldn't. Now it seems like they can. That's the big thing. But, you know, the pressure from the outside has been on the Big Ten since they shut it down. I mean, it's been relentless. We could name all kinds of examples for that. That has to weigh. And when you see other leagues playing and are at least able to do it, that's got to weigh. So, you know, I think it's a combination of factors, and it's like either you do it now. If you don't do it now and bring it back, it's almost like what's the point of bringing it back until the spring? Because you got to bring it back and be involved in the national conversation, the playoffs, you know.
When you look at the Pac-12, you know, I guess they're going to make some sort of decision on Thursday. The pressure is obviously different. There's a little difference between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. I mean, you know, they're both Power 5 conferences, but it's different. But what would it mean just to get everybody back and playing? Well,
there's some normalcy there to that. You're not going to have the big asterisks or one that's as big on this season. If you have all the Power 5 leagues there, and I think they'll come back, even if they come back by Halloween or a week later than the Big Ten. They'll still be in the conversation, I would think, in the playoffs. I mean, and it's huge because then you have some togetherness. I mean, because everything is so scattered. I mean, look at like the ACC, like Pitt. I mean, Pitt could have 6 games under their belt by the time Penn State plays. One,
right.
It's going to be so different, and awkward to begin with. But if you can at least get those, all 5 leagues back at some form or fashion, at least by the time this starts to wrap up in November and December, bring some normalcy back to what people are rooting for, following. I mean, that's huge. You can't leave the big conferences out.
No, exactly right. You can't do that along the way. What's it been like for you watching college football the last 3 weekends?
Don't watch a whole lot of it, Steve. No,
I understand.
It's weird. It's weird because the weather's been pretty good, and there's a Saturday where, strangely enough, in the fall, you have a chance to do some other things, and it's a chance. It felt like never-ending bye weeks covering Penn State, where you have a Saturday where you don't have games and you can check in or not a little bit on your own time. Now, I think what's really going to start to change is this week. Okay, so start asking this question this time next week when now the SEC is back. The schedule is much larger, and the games mean to me a lot more now, starting this coming weekend. Then I think October is going to be very strange for the Big Ten and Penn State as they're getting ready and everybody's going through games 3, 4, and 5. That's going to seem weird.
Right, and it's interesting. I've only taken slices of the last 3 weeks, and the slices I watched, I felt, Frank, like it was Groundhog Day. I felt like I was watching Week 0 over and over again, because Week 0 at least is somebody's playing. You watch a little bit, get a little feel for it, taste for it, and then you move on to something else because the games aren't very good and the programs are not intriguing. And I feel like I've watched Week 0 now for 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, I think we at least got, I hate to say used to it, but with the very no sports and then spotty sports since March, at least you kind of are almost like, okay, this isn't normal. This isn't the way we're used to. We're okay, we can accept that again, right? You don't like it, but you kind of accept it. And that they can play football at all, and that this can be successful at all seems to almost just be a huge accomplishment for people who love the game, follow the game. So I think people are taking it as it's a present, so to speak. So if it can keep going in the right direction, hey, that's what you got. That's great, right?
Exactly. What were your thoughts, Frank, when you heard about Saquon Barkley?
You're devastated in that who prepares their body and who does more for themselves for them to be ready and perform at a high level than that guy. Anyone ever at Penn State that I can remember put that kind of work in to make himself as sturdy as no one did it harder than Saquon, and to see how just some one move, one play takes it away for the whole season is, it's just like, no one's immune, and it's just a huge loss for to get the chance. You get robbed of getting to see the toughest man in the NFL to tackle. So.
And not only that, it's the kind of play where he was actually tackled because it was a typical Saquon effort play. It was an effort play. He just didn't go down. He said, "Well, you're not going to take me down." And when he did, it just hit the wrong way.
Well, I tell you what. The greatest individual performance I've seen ever in person from a Penn State football player would have been what he did at Iowa in 2017. Yes. I love going back on YouTube and watching like the 10-minute cut-ups of just his plays. And he had one of those plays near the end of that game where he caught a pass on the sideline. It looked like his knee or ankle buckled. Yeah. And, he survived that, but that kind of made you think at that moment, like, that could have been that play right there.
Sure.
And that would have been early in the season, and he was fortunate, and I guess it's hopefully he can get back and be the same guy he was. You'd think he will be, in this day and age he will be. Just another 2020 head shaker, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't wait to see you in person. How about that?
Yeah. Awesome.
So the door is open to that. So that's a good thing. Frank, thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. All the best to you, Steve. Enjoy the day and the week, please.
Frank Bodani, York Daily Record. Alex Kozora, Steelers Depot. Next half hour, final half hour, Kim Jones, NFL Network. Neil Coulon coming up on tomorrow's show along with Mike Gross as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Alex Kozora, Steelers Depot. Next half hour, we'd have somebody on to talk about the Eagles, but we don't want to depress the passengers.
I do want to get somebody later in the week. We'll hopefully get that going. But, yeah, today,
once they cool down? Once they cool down? I mean, what are we waiting for here?
Just because there's going to probably be more to talk about, because it's just like watching somebody fall down the steps after Doug Pease comments on the radio today.
What did he say on the radio today?
He's blaming everything on the unprecedented offseason, which everybody had to deal with. And then when he was asked why Carson Wentz is regressing, he says, that's a good question. Are you serious? This just keeps getting worse for this team. I'd like to think they can beat Cincinnati on Sunday, but I honestly don't know. It's not. I can tell you it's not going to be a given, that's for sure. And I got news for you. The Eagles got to find a way to win that game Sunday, because then you're at San Francisco, even though they're beaten up right now. Then you got the Steelers and the Ravens.
Who are they playing Sunday?
They got Cincinnati at home.
Oh, they'll win that game. Come on.
It's not a gimme, I can tell you that, because Joe Burrow's playing well.
As I said last week, Joe Burrow gives them a fighting chance in every game.
Yeah, and their defense is pretty good too. But
right, there's no getting right. He gives them a fighting chance in every single game. That's fine. I got it. I mean, you don't win that game. Ooh, man, you're going to be in a world of hurt, buddy.
I think at the best, though, and this is just my feel, but I think at best the Eagles are going to be 2-4 after 6 games.
What's going to happen? I mean, at that point, you're going to be at the railing.
Well, at least I'll expect it by then. It's just now it just hurts the most because you didn't expect this. Yes, and you knew there were injuries, but I really thought they have a real shot to go 3-0 to start the year. Because I didn't think the Rams were that good. I thought they'd beat Washington, obviously, on the road. And I thought they'd win this game on Sunday with Cincy. I did not see 0-2 with this team. And some of the things that we're seeing, especially from the quarterback, is what's most concerning. I said this from the very beginning. Carson Wentz is not right in the head, and you keep seeing it. Bray Dittinger even said it yesterday on Eagles Postgame Live on NBC Sports Philly. Something's up with Carson. And until they get that figured out, this team's going nowhere.
It's an awfully bitter analysis.
I just give you my honest opinion.
You're not happy.
No, I'm not.
Wow.
Very, very disappointing.
Nobody could tell. So you're telling me you're giving up on the season?
I'm not giving up yet, at least. I need to see how they are at the 6-week mark.
So you're giving up? I mean, you got 2 wins against the Giants.
Most likely, yeah. I would think they can probably do that.
You got 2 wins against the Cowboys.
I think they'll split. I still think they'll split.
Not after yesterday's emotional win.
Oh.
Come on.
Yeah, yesterday was probably one of the worst days of watching football I've had in quite some time. Between the Eagles' embarrassing game and then the Falcons blowing that again. Oh.
You know what bothers me about the Falcons thing? Is you practice that over and over again.
Oh, I know.
and that's what you come up with? We'll just watch it roll? No. An onside kick should be nearly impossible in this league to recover with the new rules on kickoffs. Should be nearly impossible because you don't get a running start.
First time since
and yet they did the
2014
impossible and they
Cowboys got
recovered
one.
it.
Yeah, exactly. First time since 2014.
There you go.